Right, good evening, everyone. 37th episode of No Punches Pulled coming to you live on this beautiful Tuesday evening. Fear not, JFT, I believe, is on his way into the building. But myself and Liam will carry it through to begin with. Liam, how's things, my friend?
Yeah, all good, mate. All good. Just about recovered from the most
Good
disappointing
evening.
weekend of boxing I can remember in a
Yeah,
long
look,
time.
I mean, we debated a review show, didn't we, yesterday? But I think my enthusiasm particularly just wasn't really there to talk about what was a very disappointing weekend outside of Inoue and Rafael Espinosa saving it on Sunday in Vegas. But yeah, I guess I'll throw it to both of you. I mean, we're definitely not gonna discuss how little punches Haney, Canelo, et al. Threw on Friday and Saturday, but anything in particular you want to put in or discuss from what happened at the
I
weekend?
think I think my willing to do a review so soon after the fights had been concluded was the fact that I was so pissed off about the state of supposed but think about what we're saying here, right? 12 months ago, maybe not the weekend, but 12 months ago, 80 to 90, well, all the guys in the main events, and even, well, there was 3 main events, weren't they, on Friday?
Yeah.
Were all around the pound for pound list, or talked about as, some of them were talked about as all-time greats. You know, I've heard that phrase bounded about for Devon Haney before now. And you know, in a way, did what he needed to do. But Canelo, one of the greatest of all time. Never mind, he's a greatest Mexican, which I don't believe he is, and certainly not the greatest of all time. But what I'm saying is, to go within 12 months to go from one end of the spectrum to being, I shit you not, right, before Sunday's fight, so Saturday night, after the fight, early hours of Sunday morning, I sat there in not disbelief, but proper gutted and proper disappointment, because the names in those fights in the build-up to the weekend, there was no way we could feel like this on the Tuesday, and we do.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
No, I do. 100%. That's exactly how we were. Hey, Luke, I hope you're well, mate.
Luca.
Even Luca. I think you take out, sorry, mate, if you take out Espinosa, it's a horrible weekend. The only thing that beats Espinosa at 126 is the scales. I said it to you boys yesterday morning when we sort of trying to find the glimmer of light in the weekends. Espinosa is a spiteful, horrible son of a so-and-so to be in the ring with, and I think he's an outstanding fighter for anyone where he is. The rest of the weekends, I mean, I just don't know where I stand on it. Yes, it takes 2 to dance. It takes 2 willing boxers in there. But let's just focus on Canelo for a second. Canelo 12 or 18 months ago would have lived with an opponent doing minimal like skulls for the first half of the fight and then moved through the gears and got a stoppage down the back stretch. So we now need to have a conversation about, has Canelo started to lose a step? I mean, there's nothing wrong if he has started to lose a step. Look at what he's done in his career. Look at his age now. But it was lackluster. The whole atmosphere. I mean, we commented on how empty the arena was. The whole feel of that card on Saturday in Riyadh was strange. And then Times Square on Friday night, I mean, we said it's a novelty. It's either going to be absolutely amazing or it's going to flop like nothing you would have ever seen before. And I think we can all agree which category it fell into. Look, Ryan Garcia said it felt more like a glorified spa than it did a boxing match because of the lack of atmosphere. He said it was even worse than when I fought in COVID. If that's not a damning indictment for how poor that Times Square event was, then I don't know what else is. Look, Ryan Garcia would say that. If he won by second round knockout, he'd be saying it's the best thing ever. Next week.
You know that.
You've got to throw the caveat in, but you've put 6 of the best lightweights in the world, give or take, in there on Friday night, and none of them delivered. If you want to say someone delivered, it was Roman Romero, but he done it in second gear. He never moved through the gears to try and make a statement. He was comfortable doing it. After he got that knockdown in round 2, it was almost as if 1-2s and moving off to his left was enough for him for the rest of the fight. Tio done what Tio tends to do when the pressure's on him, but he came up with a game plan that Barbosa just couldn't seem to overcome. And look, I nearly fell asleep watching Haney and Ramirez. I horrendous. The limited punch output.
Oh,
Devin Haney was
shocking.
petrified for the majority of that fight in court.
Evening, Pat.
Let's not tiptoe around the elephant in the room, right? The elephant in the room is the Saudi money. And I'll tell you why. Not one time over the weekend did we see anybody willing to take any form of risks or feeling the need to have to take any risks.
Stake, Jay?
Well, no, it's not even too much dough at stake. They've had the dough, the biggest payday of their career before they even turn up. It's taking the hunger out of boxing. I don't care what anyone says. You can shoot me down. There are fighters that are hungry for legacy. But what I'm saying is, ultimately, they all fight for dough. And if you are being made a multimillionaire or getting life-changing money initially, straight away, what are they left to fight for?
Yeah, I agree.
They don't have to take risks. And I think, like you said, are they risking potential big money? Yeah, because they know that the next one is even bigger.
Exactly, Jay. That's exactly what I want to talk about. That's a good point. Hi, Mitch. Hope you're well, mate. Thanks for being with us. And
evening,
Mickey
brother.
As well. Mickey says Turkey pays guys big money for the winner and not before the fight. That's what the UFC do, don't they, with the win bonuses? But Jay, just something I wanted to kick on the back of what you just said there. We've seen it like the first ever Riyadh season card, right? Was Joshua after Fury and Barney, wasn't it? But you know, it was the day of reckoning, wasn't it? And the whole thing around that was Joseph Parker's fighting Wilder and AJ's fighting Wallin. On the back of that, Wilder's going to fight AJ. That fight didn't happen because Wilder loses. On Saturday, what happened? Ryan Garcia is fighting Devin Haney in October.
Loses.
Because Ryan Garcia loses. And then Canelo as well with Skull, obviously Crawford, the fight in September. So all these guys have got this massive big carrot dangled at the end of this current fight that they're in. So none of them are taking any risks. Do you know what I mean? That's exactly.
And that's exactly what I said. No one's willing to put themselves. I'm not saying that they're scared, but they're fighting with an eye on something else, an eye on something else. So, as I said during Liam's description of the Canelo fight, I don't even think it's the fact he's lost a step. I think it's more that he was just coasting. He knows Mayweather did it. Within 2 rounds, he knows what he needs to do to beat the person in front of him. And he does it without taking any risk, very minimal risk. Canelo's now doing that. Gone are the days of him going toe-to-toe, punch for punch with Triple G and throwing himself in front of the bull, so to speak, and either matadoring it or fighting it head on. He's not doing either of those now. I've never seen Canelo with such low punch output. I think I saw a stat, and it might have been either Eubank Jr. or Conor Benn that threw it, that put the stat out, but it was something like in 3 rounds of his fight with Ben, with whoever, the Ben fight, within 3 rounds of that fight, more punches were thrown in the 10 of one of the fights at the weekend, or was it a combination of fights? It might have even been a combination.
Well, I saw that MVP put something out about Taylor Serrano too. I don't know if any of you saw that. So Amanda Serrano threw more punches in 10 rounds against Katie Taylor in the rematch than Teofimo did, Haney, Canelo combined, and Garcia. That was the
point.
I want to talk about. Yes, sorry, boys. I want to talk about what Lucas said here before we move on to what's going to be a great fight this weekend with Anto and Leigh Wood. I'm very disappointed in Martin Bacoli, to be honest with you. I know we rate him on here and we like.
I don't anymore. I'm done with the bogey man.
But like Lucas said, that payday, he turned up £299.
Listen,
out of shape.
Billy Nelson deserves a shit ton of credit, and Martin as well, right, for marketing Martin. And he was the bogeyman. We all got sucked in. The sparring stories we all believe. But ultimately, what Martin's done is he's turned up for a massive payday, short notice, right? We gave him a bly for that. He got a bly for that. He turned up in the same condition, and you can't tell me any different. Me seeing a 30-second clip on his Instagram of him running down a high street in, where's he from? Is it Congo or Cameroon? The Congo, right? Yeah. Tells me nothing, right? Seeing him skipping in a 30-second clip. That man has not done a full 12-week training camp, because if he had done, he would have lost way more than 11 pounds and would not have had to box within himself. And Billy will shoot me down for this, but Martin Bacoli boxed within himself at the weekend, coasted to a draw that he could have potentially lost. I actually thought he could have edged it, But it could have gone either way.
Yeah, I think it was very close, but Bacoli did finish decently. Yeah, no, I'm not either.
I don't think he's asked anymore.
I read, and don't quote me on this, because I read somebody who said this was a quote from Billy Nelson, but it sounds like it could be something that can. But he said he struggles to. Well, no, he said he can't control what goes in Martin Bacoli's mouth. So he's obviously talking about his nutrition.
Doesn't look like Martin can either.
But like that's not a good. Like that's not good. You know, you're a professional athlete.
They should be getting prepped meals. Simple as that. If you are a world-class athlete, you should not be cooking or eating out. You should have, in camp, you should have prepped meals or a regimen that you stick to. You shouldn't just be shoveling it on. I know the heavyweights, and they don't necessarily need to boil down. MMA, some organisations, but the UFC have got it probably right at heavyweight. They cap it off at 265. And you've got to make 265. It's as simple. And they have the likes of Roy Nelson with big bellies hanging over the pants. But he has to cut to get to 265. We don't have that in boxing. And Martin Bacoli is a prime example of just somebody who just thinks his skills good. Get your cardio.
We had Billy Nelson on here, and he told us that he'd like a stone off. Do you not remember when we were talking to him on here?
I think he said 2.
Yeah, he said, and because U6 team called him undisciplined. Yeah. Now U6 team, you know, he's got the best team in the game.
They are super disciplined, probably one of the most disciplined teams within the sport. Go on, Liam. Sorry, I can see you've got something to add.
I think it comes down to with Martin. 8 months ago, he fought Jared Anderson in California. We're almost 8 months to the day of that fight, give or take a day or so. And he was on the precipice. He was the next guy that was hopefully going to get his shot, wasn't he? Now we're in a position where, okay, he took the Bacoli fight at 28 hours notice. I'm fed up of hearing about it, because that excuse should be gone after Saturday. Yes, okay, we can forgive him being in the shape he was in for Parker because of, you know, the short notice, etc., etc. But he's apparently been with Billy Nelson for the last 9.5 weeks. If that's the conditioning he's in after 9.5 weeks, then there's two things to say. Martin Bacoli does not give a damn and doesn't want to get into condition, or Billy Nelson doesn't have the control over Martin to get him into shape. I.e., why isn't there a nutritionist or someone else there?
He's with Billy Nelson. Sorry, Liam. He's with Billy Nelson. Look at the shape of Richard Riatpour.
Traps on him. It reminds me of myself, if I'm honest. Just a bit darker.
Richard Riatpour.
But Riakpour has a strength and conditionist. If you look at his social media, he's posting his meal preps and all his training plans from his strength and conditioner all the time. It's discipline. Martin, just because you're a heavyweight, like Jay said, you still need to be in some sort of shape. Martin was done after 5 rounds. You watch that fight back, he's absolutely gasping.
He's enjoying the fruits of his labour. He is, and he's not, like, unfortunately, as Luca, I think, suggested in a load of comments coming in. Thanks for all the comments.
His brother's fleshy too, so it's probably, you know, the fleshy people probably, but it's
genetic, of course.
You can see that he has a lack of discipline. He definitely has a lack of discipline in terms of he maybe doesn't do the cardio, and he certainly doesn't maintain a decent level.
He doesn't have the mentality to be at the very top level, in my opinion. Absolutely. He has all the talent.
Proved that now.
He has all the talent, but he doesn't have the discipline and the mentality. And you ain't going to do that against the likes of Usyk and Parker and people like this who are super disciplined.
You don't have to be super chiseled.
Yeah, Tyson Fury will show you that physiques don't win fights and titles. But I mean, even with Fury, you know, he can be disciplined.
He gets into shape.
Yeah.
Martin Bacoli doesn't get into shape.
It's 8 years to the day since Hay Bellew 2, and you look at those two men in the ring. David Hay chiseled with a 6-pack. Tony Bellew had a belly on him, but it was as toned as he was allowed himself to get into, if that makes sense. That's what we're talking about with Bacoli. We're not saying he needs to shed a load of weight and develop abs, but he needs to show some form of conditioning, because if you don't blow a guy out there in 4 rounds, you're then just going to hang on and hope you nick a decision. It doesn't work like that. All the love and favour that Martin and Billy has with the boxing public and the boxing hardcore.
Yeah, and that's the risk you took on February 22nd.
But look,
he's hanging on after
Martin's not bothered.
It's gone now.
Because Martin will have made £1 million maybe in this last 12 months. Just shy of that. Listen, he's made career high money. He's probably made enough to, if he's sensible, live comfortably for the rest of his life, just having a few more, because he'll get a couple of $100 grand just for turning up now with his name. But I think Martin Bacoli's, inserting himself in the top 5 for me is gone. This was his
No,
opportunity.
no longer.
We picked him to walk through FA Jagba 6 months ago. We picked him to walk through him. I were half unsure whether he'd even win that fight at the weekend. And when we watched and we got the result, I wasn't that surprised. I was disappointed, but I wasn't that surprised. And
the aura's gone, hasn't it?
I think so. Yeah, king of sparring.
So I think we'll move on from there. Look, MJ against Inoue is going to be great in September. Canelo Crawford as well is going to happen the week after that, I believe. So some good fights to look forward to for sure. But let's get on to this week, boys. I'm going to get through a few comments while we got it. David Roper, hope you're well, my friend. Have you used the word running yet? There was a lot of running going on. Hand History Vaults here as well. Hope you're well. It wasn't pretty good. Yeah, look, Bacoli maybe edged it, but it was a horrible fight. I don't feel sorry for him on the draw.
I don't want to watch.
I'll never watch that fight again in my life.
No, lost 12 pounds since parking a proper training camp. Yeah, definitely. We've got Lloyd in the house as well. Hope you're well for me. Badu Jack fight stands out of 3. Yes. Big up to TJ as well. Thanks for joining and hope you're well. Right, let's move on to this week. Boys, Nottingham Arena, the return of one of my favourites, Leigh Wood. Not been seen since Josh Warrington last October, so he's going to be pretty much bang on 18 months out of the ring. Josh Warrington, the same guy who his opponent, Anthony Cacace, fought last, albeit only 5 or 6 months ago at Wembley when that happened. IBO Super Feather Championship on the line. Sugar Nunes is fighting Rikishi for the IBF now as Cacace vacated. First off, good to see Leigh Wood back. He's now under Queensbury rather than Matchroom. Obviously, it's a bit of a shame he was out for so long with this dispute around money or whatever it is, but let's not dwell on that. Tough night to work for both of them. I know, Liam, we spoke just before Jay got on quickly that it's one of those that we'll curse it and say it can't not deliver, but with a clash of styles with Cacace and Wood, I'd be gobsmacked if we don't get a classic on Saturday.
I'm just reading Hand History Vault's comment then, the first sentence. Have you ever watched him fight? His chin's decent, mate. The fact that he gets back up tells you that his chin and his cardio are very, very good. Whether there's a shelf life on that style is being proven that there is. Sorry,
I agree with you, Jay. There's 2 narratives coming into this fight that I want to talk about because just by you answering that, I put it into my head. Leigh Wood, I don't believe he's chinny in the slightest either. He's been hurt and buzzed a few times, but even with the Conlon fight, he was out on his feet in the first round. But being chinny, he might get dropped a bit. I know Lara had him out, but he shipped a massive left hook at Ben Davis and pulled him out against Lara in the first fight. But he got up and he took it. It's not like he stays down, but
that's just a balance and equilibrium. His legs are not necessarily that thick.
I don't think Cacace's a big puncher. Me and Luca were talking about this the other day. Cacace's got 8 knockouts in 19 wins. He's not a big puncher, Cacace.
And I think where that narrative's come from is the fact that he blasted Joe Cordina. Everybody was so high on Cordina, but that's the first time
Cordina was dead at weight as well. And there was controversy in that fight as well.
Yeah, so there's a lot goes into that, and we've run with a narrative, or people have certainly run with a narrative that he's this killer puncher. Which, look, up until 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, Cacace was a small hall fighter that everyone had heard of. I remember him turning
took a similar trajectory.
Carl Frampton was massive on him. Carl Frampton was really massive on him, but he never got the fights. I think he was a who needs him type fighter. They knew he would go. Yeah, but I think people within the trade knew that on his night he was really, really good. So nobody wanted to fight him. He got his shot, and the rest is history. But I'm not sure that he can stop Wood unless Wood runs out of gas. I don't think he's going to bowl him over. Like some people are talking, he'll just run through him because he's this concussive puncher. I don't think he is, and I think
if there's a stoppage, it's Wood stopping Cacace in this fight.
I think so. Yeah, I think because Wood can go to the well continually. We've seen Wood knocked out, walk back up like Tyson Fury did, get knocked down again, maybe get knocked out again, standing up, laying down, and just continually do that. We've not seen Cacace do that. We've seen him go to the well and have to try to, and he's sort of clung on through fights or certain fights earlier on in his career, and we're just unsure how he'll react to being taken into an absolute war. And Leigh Wood's got no other way to fight.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm at, Liam, where Lucas said. I think it's Cacace points or Wood knockout, personally.
I think
my biggest fear is Leigh Wood's inactivity.
Mm-hmm.
The fact we've not seen him since October 2023 is a worry. And look, I saw Leigh Wood when I was at York Hall last September. And look, I know it's a long time ago, but he wasn't in shape then. If he got a phone call to fight at the back end of last year, it would have had to have been a catchweight fight. There was no way he would have got himself down to championship weights. You've got to ask the question of, because of what he's achieved, because of his age, and because of what's happened, did he mentally, even if only for a couple of months, start to check out of boxing and looking at other options? We said time and time again, once you flick that switch and decide that it's not for you anymore, it's very difficult
I don't
to turn
think
it
so.
back.
No,
I'm not saying it is
I'm
like
saying
that at all,
I've
but
got an answer to
got a
why
question.
it's not like that. He's consistently said the same thing from day one. He wants a fight. He's trying to make a fight. He's had arguments with his promotion. They were getting they were going to try do it at the Nottingham, Forest ground, weren't they? And that fell through. So I don't think he checked out. I don't buy into that, mate. I think it's just the right deal and the right fight's not being there. I think that's what it is for me. But I agree with you. The fact that he's been out a long time is a massive concern for me.
Yeah,
because he's jumping straight in at a high level. But Cacace's, I mean, when were his last fight? It's over a year ago, isn't it?
September.
Yeah, just Wembley against Warrington.
Yeah.
I thought that was way before September, no?
Yeah,
that was up to Dubois and AJ card.
Shit, man, totally forgot. I thought that was further back.
Cacace's coming off of the best year of his career. It's absolutely icing Joe Cordina, yes, with the asterisks of the controversy, but stopping Joe Cordina and then out-toughing and kind of outliving Josh Warrington down the stretch. That was Josh Warrington fighting a Josh Warrington-style fight, but at the point he's at now in his career, he couldn't do it for 36 minutes. Cacace was impressive again at Wembley. So you've just got to think the momentum he's on now. Look, he's given up his IBF belt. We know why he's done that. We're not going to slander him for it. The IBO, Jay's favourite belt, still on the line. So there's championship pedigree in this fight. It's just now for Cacace, get through this fight, and then what does he look to do? Does he maybe look to go back towards a Sugar Nunes? Is there another path for him to take to maybe maximise what he's got? It's where we're at there now. But you say you can only see Leigh Wood getting a stoppage in this fight. I will say this. If Leigh Wood is 10% off where he was, Cacace could stop him. Cacace will jump all over him. It's like he's got a new lease of life now. Since that Joe Cordina fight, it's almost as if he believes he has power again, because he was trying to get Josh Warrington out there down the backstretch in the fight. And couldn't, no, but Josh Warrington has, other than Leigh Wood, has never been stopped. Josh is tough.
Yeah, but no, the other guy, Lara stopped him.
Lara beat the dog shit out of me. Yeah, one thing I'll say about Wood is that he was dead at 126. He was done at featherweight. He'd been done for a long time at featherweight. You'd have to think.
He stayed for the belt. Yeah,
exactly. He stayed for the belt. You have to think the power will transfer up. And for me, Wood's a bigger puncher than Cacace, but Cacace's obviously a bigger guy. So
it sort of levels itself out. I think the worry for me is Cacace's catching Wood early, because he's susceptible to that, and he starts pretty slow.
He does. He is a slow start.
I don't know if it's just something he does, or whether it's just the styles of the fights he's had recently. But he sort of builds momentum. The good thing for me is, even when he's badly losing, like he's been knocked down, he still continues to build momentum. It's whether Cacace can stay with him, because I think Cacace will start stronger and be all over him. If Wood can recover, I think that's when the fight will become exciting and go into Wood's favour down the stretch. I think Cacace's chances of winning this fight are early for me.
It's interesting because Wood's got a 60% knockout ratio. Cacace's got a 34%, and like Wood's stopped.
The narrative is
Kanju, Warrington, he's got. But the narrative is that Cacace's the guy who's going. That's what I'm saying. And I've took a bit of stick already for picking Leigh Wood to win this fight by knockout, but that's honestly just how I've.
I can't disagree with you, mate.
Everyone in the chat's on Cacace.
The way you've just
it's just one of them. It's a great fight, though. 50-50 fight.
Block him, please, Mad Mitch TV.
The way you've just explained it, Jay, is perfect. The last time Leigh Wood started a fight quickly was against Kanzu at Fight Camp, when he picked up that WBA belt, and that's because the way the Chinaman was viewed going into that fight, there was so much.
You're not in a Western, man.
Leigh Wood almost had no say in that fight, did he? Leigh Wood was being put in there as cannon fodder for the champion, but he started quickly, set a pace, and dropped the champ late in the fight as well. That's the sort of intensity we need on Saturday. Cacace's on such a wave at the moment. If he banks 4 or 5 rounds early, Leigh Wood may come back into it, but Cacace's got this extra 20% in him at the moment. Will he ever relinquish a grip on the fight? You have to make Cacace know he's in a fight from the first round for me. And that's where I just have the question.
Fighting fire with fire, really. Yeah, I think Cacace needs to get a fast start to get far enough in front to win on points for me. I think if it's even going through the first 6, I think I've got more confidence in Wood pulling away and getting a stoppage. I think
Wood's going to throw into the fight, isn't he, Jay? Because he's inactive. So Cacace, I agree completely with what both of you have said there. Cacace needs to get on him early because Wood will be.
Well, he needs. I think for me, he needs a 10-8 in the first 6 to win it on points, because I think Wood will keep going. I think if he don't get a 10-8 in the first 6, I think he loses the fight or a stoppage in the first 6. I just think Wood's better than him in every department. He's tested, he's battle hardened, but I'm usually wrong.
Wood's got home advantage, Liam too.
Inactivity thing. Yeah.
Go on, mate. Sorry, I cut you off.
I was going to say, I think the age and inactivity thing for me is only such an issue because it's at lighter weights. I mean, going to UFC quickly, we had the conversation about Volk trying to win a belt back at 36, and it's only been done, I think, once before Volk below 155, which is lightweight. It's similar in boxing. When guys have a long layoff once they've reached their, mid-30s, very rarely do they come back as good as they were or are able to go to that level again. It's normally in the higher weight classes we see fighters deliver at a later age. So, look, it's a valid question mark. I do think Leigh Wood's power will see him through the fight, but I'm not as confident as I was 18 months ago.
But you do know they're both the same age, though, don't you?
Yes, but Cacace's been active the whole time.
Yeah, but do we know who the favourite is? Luke or no? If he's still here.
I don't get
do we know who the favourite is? I think Cacace would be the favourite.
Yeah.
I'd imagine because of recency bias. I think recency bias.
I mean, I would have it
on your phone now for gambling. I'm not
sure. It's we need a sponsor. It's got to be as good as a 50-50 as you could possibly get this.
I think so. Yeah, I think.
I've got Leigh Wood to win 7-1, Cacace 1-2.
It's virtually the same. It's 1-2 or 13-8. So you get a bit of money on Wood, but it'll drop.
Cacace's a slight favourite.
Wood round 6 is 33-1, which I'm going to have.
I think that makes sense. Yeah, Dave, that's a great point. With Leigh Wood, he is dangerous. Look, Kanju stoppage 12th round. Michael Conlon from down on the card stoppage 12th round. Josh Warrington losing pretty much every round, stops him with his first combination that he lands.
And that's the thing, mate. And that's the thing. If this fight goes to the dying seconds of the 12th round and Wood is down on the cards, you're not switching off, even if he's 11-0 down, because he's got that power in his hands. Look, him moving up in weight will help. Him knowing the fighting style he has will help. It's just, can he still put it all together in the ring? I'm not saying for 1 second that he's all of a sudden aged overnight and won't be able to perform.
We don't know. So the safe plays Cacace on the back of that because we know what we're going to get with Cacace.
We'll know inside 6 minutes. We'll know inside 6 minutes what Leigh Wood's got. That's the reality. But it's an excellent fight.
It's a great fight, though. Look at the debate. We're kind of getting...
It makes a change that we're having a proper debate about a 50-50 fight.
Yeah.
Normally it's just normally we have a pick. But in this one, it is... a pick-em fight.
Yeah, it's great.
The co-main on this card's the same. The co-main on this card's the same. Liam Davis and Ezra Taylor is a pick-em 50-50 as well for me. You've got 2 fights at the top of this card on Saturday that could go.
Yeah, Liam Davis, he's fighting Kurt Walker. Is he on the card? Ezra Davis is fighting Troy. What's his name?
Davis. Oh no, that's no.
Troy James, is it or? Troy James or Troy
Liam's just made a fight there, Liam. Get that one.
I made a fight for later on, I think.
Liam Davis fighting Kurt Walker.
Liam Davis, Kurt Waters, and Ezra Taylor.
Ezra Taylor's a light heavyweight. Liam Davis is a featherweight. So I don't know if they'll fight him.
Not a
I'm out, boys. See you later.
No disrespect, Ezra, but that is not a pick 'em.
That sounds like a Jake Paul fight, that, Liam.
Done it, just. Sign him up, Misfits. Sign him up.
Man, that's on MVP in the next year, you know.
But look, there's some good. There are some great fights. It's not a top loaded card. Obviously, it's a great main event, but there's some good trade fights there. It'd be a decent night.
It makes a change for a Frank.
Yeah, I'm with you, Pat. Yeah,
don't forget as well, Leigh Wood has been itching to fight at home, and he's fighting at home. You know, that in itself will give him an extra motivation to win. I don't think he needs that, but I think it helps. You know,
definitely. Be a raucous crowd.
Cacace's had the bear pit before. I don't think he'll be too phased, but it can give an edge, or certainly zap a fighter's confidence. Getting booed. If you remember Conor Ben did not sit boozed well. He didn't like it, and he did not expect it, because Eubank Jr. has always been the villain of any fight. He's always been the villain. And the closer that fight got, I'm not saying Conor Ben's a villain, right? But public perceptions changed, and the public, especially when Senior turned up, and you could see the look as he tried to keep as stony face as he could. But if you watch that ring entrance for Conor Ben, when the boos hit him, you can see it in him. There's a slight reaction. He doesn't like it. You know, his dad's a darling in boxing, isn't he? But he will getting booed nonetheless. And I think it can affect some fighters mentally sometimes. Whether that is Cacace, I don't know.
I don't know if it's going to be an impact in this fight, but I completely agree with you. Leigh Wood's fighting in Nottingham is another 10%. So anything he may be lacking, there's another 10% there by having a home crowd behind him. And you can never, ever take for granted having a home crowd behind you. That's why, you want, if you got an advantage, you want to make the most of it. It's why champions always want to fight in their own backyard. It's why when Scott Quigg and Carl Frampton fought all those years ago, there was such a big thing about, is it going to be Manchester or Belfast? Admittedly, Frampton won it in Manchester, but we all remember how big a deal that was at the time, getting the fight on who's going to get the home advantage.
I tell you what, though, there were a lot of Irish in that venue that night. A lot.
Didn't they split it in half?
They did something similar for Warrington, didn't they, as well?
Yeah, it didn't translate on TV, but I mean, I've said before, the Nottingham Ice Arena as it was then in 2000 and something, Amir Khan fought Scott Lawton. I've never to this day heard a crowd like that. And they had literally a cordon, half and half. They had drums, football chants, but the sound echoed. I'm expecting something similar. I'm expecting...
it's going to be great. The atmosphere is going to be electric for the main event, because Cacace will bring a lot over as well.
He'll bring a few. Yeah. It's going to be a great fight.
I would say 10 to 12 if I was going to say. Lloyd, to be honest, I think Wood's a great finisher in the championship rounds. Quickly then, boys, before we go on to any news points you want to talk about, there's a card on Top Rank in San Diego where Navarrete versus Suarez for the WBO super feather, so same division as
potential fight for one of the main events.
Yeah, definitely. And then you got Raymond Muratalla against Zar Abdullayev as well in the co-main, which is a very, very good fight at 135 pounds. Abdullayev only lost to Devin Haney. That was a weird retirement years ago. Muratalla obviously is the next big top rank prospect. He's been talked about in that 135 mix as well. So that should be. I'm looking forward to the co-main more than the main event on that card, Dave. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, great fights. I'm unsure though. I'm not on the hype train yet.
From Muratalla.
Yeah, I'm not on it yet.
Yeah, Abdullayev's a good fighter. I'm interested in that.
Yeah, I think this is a not 60-40 for me. I could see Muratalla losing if he's not on it.
There wouldn't be a massive upset for me if Abdullayev wins.
No, but I'm excited to see what's next for both of them, really, and who wins that fight.
The winners in that 135 mix.
In for some big fights, and it might be one of the British guys brings them over here to try get a belt.
Yeah, definitely. Couple of announcements we've had since last week. Usyk Dubois rematch is on for Wembley. I don't know. It's the Ring Magazine card, Hamza against Belanga. Was that announced within the space of last week?
We've spoke about it. I don't think we have on here. Though. I think that's the conversation we've had.
Bam Rodriguez is fighting Cafu, isn't he?
Yeah.
What else?
July,
June
or July? That June.
I think it's July, isn't it? That one.
July the 19th.
July 12th.
Is it?
July 12th? Yeah, because it's July 19th. It's after Usyk Dubois too.
So it's the week after.
It's in America. No, it's the same day, but in America. Obviously, Usyk Dubois is over here, so you got Usyk Dubois into Bam. That's at the Dallas Cowboys, I think, that one. Any other fights been announced?
Fabio Wardley's
MJ and
Inoue. Yeah, Fabio Wardley's fighting Justice Hooney. Actually, that's a fair point. Lee, what do we think about that?
I think he'll win that fight. I think Fabio's, I hate using this term, but maybe seasoned a little bit more, and that's rich because not 12 months ago we were saying that Fabio Wardley was inexperienced and only just out of white collar and or people were saying that. I've never said that, but inexperienced, and Fraser Clark was his test. They had the war, then he dispatched him easy. Now he's fighting someone for a version of a world title or to get a world belt in his home football stadium. To go from prospect to headliner on a massive show against an unbeaten prospect, another unbeaten prospect, but a dangerous unbeaten prospect. It shows guts from him and his promoter. I'd like to know who picked Hooney, whether it was Wardley or Ben Shalom or somebody within the team. I'd like, Frank Warren. I'd like to know who made the decision on it. But Fabio Wardley should win that fight for me. Should.
Yeah, we've watched Hooney's last two, haven't we, Liam? I think on the watch-alongs in Australia. I don't think he looks up too much on with Luca here. I think Fabio dispatches Hooney.
It's Hooney. Hooney was meant to be fighting TBA on this date, so at least now he's going to get in a real fight rather than having a knockover. But from me thinking Fabio would get rid of Miller down the back stretch of the fight, I think he does it now in the first half. I think Hooney will come out looking to take Fabio.
That's his chat. He reminds me of the Taffa brothers, in the UFC.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying, don't you? He's got that. Yeah. So for
Kevin Lerena had him on skates, didn't he, in Saudi?
Yeah,
last round
for a round and a half, he's probably one of the most dangerous heavyweights around for a round and a half. Once you navigate that, his skill set's not that good.
Fabio's had the gut checks and he's passed.
And I think Fabio's boxing's underrated. They go to this white collar narrative and no amateur pedigree, but look, he went toe to toe with an Olympic medalist in Fraser Clark and then broke his face, nearly knocked his head off in the rematch. So his boxing is massively, massively underrated for me.
Yeah, there you go, Pat. I knew I'd heard something about it being at the Dallas Cowboys, something. So yeah, fair enough. Bam's becoming a star, and he's trying to unify on July 19th. So yeah, nice one, Pat.
I think it's become a fight now where I said to someone that commented about how it's a step down. I would rather see Justice Hooney get this opportunity than Baby Miller for the narrative and conversations we've had countless times. Baby Miller does not deserve to be anywhere near a boxing ring. Look, there's a few people joking, is he injured or has something suspicious come back? But he's always going to have to live with that. And hopefully, if he never fights again, we never have to find out if he pops on, if that makes sense. But Justice Hooney, for all the facts we don't know where he's at, as far as we know, he's a clean fighter that deserves a chance. So let's give him some props on, yes, he's in camp to fight anyway on 5 weeks' notice to step up.
How bad is it, though, that you felt the need to describe him as far as we know, he's a clean fighter? In case, do you know?
Says everything, mate. It tells you everything.
Someone's a good fighter now without inserting the narrative. If he's
100%, put a little asterisk next to it.
You know what I mean?
Come back.
The game's gone to shit, man. The game has gone to shit. I'm going to answer that question then about Owen Cooper. I think Congo batters him.
I think Congo on points.
I think he beats him fairly comfortably.
Yeah, it's got one of them. Could be a stinker. It could be great. It
could be a shutout. Congo could put on a 10 rounds boxing performance there. Cooper could be chasing shadows. But again, Chris Congo, we talk about fighters having meaningless fights. We've watched Congo's last 2 fights on Saudi public workout, those undercards things, and he's not delivered. And we've said maybe it's because he's waiting for that big fight. But this is it now. If Chris Congo doesn't deliver again, then there's a conversation about what's his go forward. So he's fighting for his career. I don't think that's an exaggeration to say Chris Congo's fighting for staying relevant.
Cooper was the one who had that war with Echo Esserman, wasn't he?
Yeah, lost on a split.
Fight.
Didn't he lose on a split? Oh, it was close.
No, Esserman knocked him out in the last round after being chinned. He chinned Esserman in the 9th, and Esserman was saved by the bell, and then Esserman flattened him.
No, I'm mixing up the fight.
Esserman,
unbelievable! What a fight! Echo Esserman against Taylor's soon as well, isn't it? That'll be.
Yeah, that's next week.
I think
it's after next. I think
Taylor's got a fight on his hands if he's looking past it, because Taylor seems a bit like that. Blows smoke up his own ass.
Fisher Allen next week, Liam, and then Taylor the week after.
Do you know how many times I've watched that face to face where they're answering questions at each other? You can't not love Dave Allen just for his honesty.
No, you can't.
I'm an hard bloke. You're not. You're an athlete. You can't beat me, pal. You're not good enough. I love that about him, and he's from Yorkshire, so I get his dry sense of humour, and sometimes he's taking the piss, but he's not afraid to go out there and be vulnerable. We've seen him beat, we've seen him flattened, we've seen him knocked out and stopped, but he's not scared to bare his soul. And I like the fact that he's getting the big paydays, because he deserves it. Because in another 10 years he'll probably be dribbling and hopefully not. But yeah, he is an advertisement for how not to defend yourself in boxing.
I'll save it for next week, but we said in the aftermath of their fight in December that we didn't think we'd get this rematch because they'd looked to maneuver Johnny Fisher on. But for us, he had to answer the question of could he beat English / British level Dave Allen, depending on your viewpoint. I'm really glad he's going back in there, because Johnny Fisher, they could have circumnavigated in a different way and maybe moved him towards fighting Fabio Wardley or Hooney, whoever wins this fight in June. But instead, they're going back to it, and Johnny's going to answer questions. We'll find out. Look, we'll find out just what Johnny Fisher's about. If he can get rid of Dave Allen in a rematch, then okay. I'm not saying we're fully back on the hype train, but we can start.
Does something for his confidence. But on the flip side of that, if he gets beat this time and stopped or something like that, then it could ruin him. That could. I mean, and I don't like the way when I hear him talk, and it's like all he wants is a British title, and it's like that's the pinnacle for me. I get it, and I'd love to even be in with a shot of winning something like that, because I could never do that. But what I'm saying is, for me, that's restricting himself or maybe aiming too low, and that tells me that it just doesn't tell me good things about him for me, and I think he should have had another fight before taking the rematch.
Yeah, look, that's a good fight. Pat Pacheco McCumbee, definitely. I like Trevor McCumbee.
Great fight.
But yeah, I'm with hand history. Dave Allen's going to have to win so wide if he wants to win on points. Again, he has to stop him, in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's not winning on points.
Just on what you said there, mate, I've got nothing wrong with a fighter saying they want to pick up a British title in their career, but they always sort of say it in a way
en route to doing something
a step
else.
On the journey.
It's everything for him.
I'd love to have a Lord Lonsdale belt because they're all unique and all the history, but Johnny Fisher, then if he talks about, well, what about after that? How about a Commonwealth or a European? No, it's just a Lonsdale belt. It's kind of a narrow-mindedness, isn't it? And we're all four fighters maybe recognizing what their level is, but at the same time, don't be
dismiss
so public
yourself.
Saying it. Make us think.
Yeah.
Make us think you still have ambitions.
But you've got to give him credit for being willing to take the fight, because it took some stones to
it took a beating in Saudi, didn't he?
Because he lost that fight. Did. We all know that he lost that fight, and
no doubt about that whatsoever. But yeah, I think that'll do for tonight's show, boys. Thanks to Jay and Liam as always for joining me. We'll try and give our 2 cents on a couple of the fights a little bit later in the week. Not too many to choose from this week.
Back with some predictions this week. We've got a few to do.
Yeah, there's a few to get stuck into. Thanks to Pat, Hand History, Vault TG, Luca, David Roper, Lloyd, Mad Mitch, Humble Apple Crumble. Anyone I've missed, I do a pot. TJ was there. Big up TJ, Lloyd Hernandez. Good crowd tonight, Mickey.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
We'll probably give some predictions maybe tomorrow night for Cacace and Navarrete. potentially look at those fights. And Straight Talk, I believe, returning on JFT.
It's coming back
on Thursday. Liam, any shows this week?
There's a solo Liam's Fight Night picks going to get done for tomorrow, and may need to do Straight Talk tomorrow if we can, because I've now got commitment for Thursday. So if we can get Straight Talk out tomorrow,
we'll get it done tomorrow. We'll
find a way. Me and Jay will carry the predictions and get everyone losing money on Thursday. That's fine.
There'll be some shorts coming on my channel this week. There's a big UFC card as well. We've got,
yes, there is.
Yeah, I'm actually. Yeah, we'll maybe cover that on Saturday night. Actually,
yeah, I think we're going to have to. That way, it's a good card. So yeah, look, you will see us three in some way, shape, or form on the internet this week.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll see you a bit later in the week.